Hello and welcome to episode number 117 of Week in Review. My name is Sean, and on this week's show, we'll talk about Bus Simulator's Airport DLC. We'll talk about a fold apart. I'll tell you about something cool happening over on twitch.tv/SeanOsaurusRex, in addition to the streams happening this week, and we'll look forward to this week's new releases. Have you heard enough about Bus Simulator on this channel? Well, hopefully you said, no, I haven't heard enough about Bus Simulator. I'd like to hear more about Bus Simulator, because I have actually more Bus Simulator for you this week. Last week they released their airport DLC expansion, map expansion, and I'm going to talk about it this week. So we'll start on the good side of things. I really like the way the new area is designed. It is to the south of the map, and it's a very bendy, windy area, which is a little bit different than what we're typically used to seeing in the main areas of the original Bus Simulator game. A lot of the roads are very straight with 90-degree turns, some light curves here and there, but it's very easy to drive. This area, specifically the, I believe it's the Kurdistan area, is really difficult to drive. It features a lot of hairpin turns and S-curves. The roads are just a little bit trickier. It's harder to get some of the accordion, double-length buses up and down the mountainside to the little village town. It's a lot of fun to drive. In the other area, there's two new areas. The second area is a little bit more of a kind of a small village town sort of thing. It's more reminiscent of what we've seen in the regular game, just kind of on a smaller scale. And I love driving around in these areas so much, and that's why I was so frustrated with the way the missions were structured. It does a really weird thing where it's hey, here's this brand new area, fun to drive, cool to look at, has a very different feel to it. We're going to make you drive to and from the old area that you've driven around in a bunch and connect the stops there, and you're not really going to get to spend a ton of time up in this area, especially early in the game. It fixes itself a little bit towards the end with some of the missions, but early on, I just didn't feel like I was getting enough time in the new areas, and I really wanted to explore those in the missions themselves, and I just didn't like some of the way the routes were made. Some of the routes in the later part are really ugly when you design them. I'm I just don't like the way this looks. It doesn't flow nicely to me. I don't really like doubling back on myself. It's definitely a Sean thing where I look at it and I go, this isn't a smooth route and I don't like the way this looks, but we'll get it done just so we can get the mission done and move on. And that problem with the mission structure led into a more secondary problem. Because you aren't spending enough time in the new areas to level up the bus stops, it means that you have to create extra routes just to get those stops leveled up. So basically the mission structure would look like this. He would say, hey, we would like you to connect the airport, 2 stops in this area, and the main station in the main area and the central bus station in the main area. Once you have that route completed or made up, it'll check that off. Maybe you'll have to drive it with a specific type of bus. They used a lot of the CNG buses, there are only 2 types of buses. There's a diesel and a CNG, and they wanted you to use the CNG to promote air quality stuff. Cool, fine, whatever. So you have to do that and then drive that specific route. But the final couple of missions sometimes were make sure that all the stops in this area are leveled up to a certain level. Well, it's hard to naturally progress through the game and get those stops to that level if you're not driving around to those stops. If you aren't giving me routes to create that are in that area, it feels like I have to kind of grind and create my own routes, which led to the problem where I was creating really boring routes and kind of just running them over and over again until I got to the level that the game required of me so that I could move on to the next mission and kind of just have that same problem. There's a couple missions in the back end that fix the issue a little bit where it needs more stops from certain areas before you leave town. That would be super helpful. For me personally, and it's nice because sometimes on the show, I talk about stuff and I go, I don't know how I'd fix this. I don't know what would be wrong with this. It's hard for me to articulate it. This one's really easy because I look at it and I go, okay, what I would do is I would have you drive around a bunch in the new area, create routes using the airport stop as the central bus station kind of hub. Hey, we want to work with a airport stop into Kurdistan, into Sonnenstein, I think is what it's called, and just kind of work from there. That's the first 4 or 5 missions of the game. Then the game goes, okay, hey, we need you to have these stops at these certain levels, and we need you to connect them to the main area and do stuff like that. That way it's a better, more natural flow progression-wise as far as the levels of stops are concerned. I don't think it's going to bother a lot of people. It was just one of those things where not only did I want to drive in the area more early on in the DLC, it just made the ends of missions a little tedious and kind of boring and feel a little grindy in padding that length. And the thing is, the length of the DLC package isn't that bad. It's like 9 missions. It took me about 12 hours. Granted, there was some grinding in there, so you could knock an hour or two off of that, and you'd still look at 9 missions, 10 hours of gameplay for like $13. Like, that's super great. That's a really good value proposition. If you just structured it a little bit better, I'd be much higher on this piece of DLC, because I think it's good, but it could be great. I really love the new area. It's just a bummer that it doesn't quite work the way I would make it. But, you know, it's not that big of a deal. What's weird about this DLC is it seems like the patch that was applied so that you could access this DLC actually made the way the game ran take a step back. Like, I've chronicled on this show that the game didn't run very well and its progression to running really well, where I talked about it in January and was like, there's a huge patch, and I just wanted to commend them for making this patch and sticking with it and making the game run the best that it's ever run. I've been playing it pretty consistently over the last couple of months, and this one seemed to struggle a little bit, especially in the smaller, more condensed town, where there are a lot of NPCs and a lot of cars. It seemed to be a lot stutterier and just wasn't as smooth as the game has been in previous like versions, I guess. So that was really odd. Also, the AI needs tweaking, because there were a couple of times where the pedestrians would just wander into the street, and it's like, what? There's no crosswalk here. Why are you just walking into the street? Which causes problems, because if you hit them, then it costs you $20,000 and you lose obviously money, but you also lose like star ratings, which helps you level up bus stops and all that sort of stuff. So it's like kind of a domino effect of like, there's really weird AI that just juts out in front of you, so then you're losing stuff, and then sometimes the AI like doesn't understand where the bus is supposed to be and where they're supposed to get on, because they're supposed to get on your right, but for some reason they go in front of your bus and they end up right next to your window, and you're like, why are you here? Ma'am, the door's on this side over here. Why are you standing next to my window? It was really weird. It wasn't a thing that I noticed in the original game, as far as not being able to identify where to get on the bus and just wandering out into the street outside of a crosswalk. Sometimes in the original game, the pedestrians would just jut out into the street. At least it was in a crosswalk, you know, kind of like 50-50. I'll take the loss, but not super happy about it. But it's a solid piece of DLC. I should make a note that you have to have completed the entire original game before you can access the missions in this area. So just as a note, it was fine for me, because obviously I played through the whole game and I really loved it. And I'm more than happy to have more content for it, not only like to stream and to play with, but just like more areas of the map to explore. And I can't stress enough just how much I loved driving around it. Like the hill into the mountains that leads you up into this area, like it just feels very different. It has a different vibe. Like it's really well done. It's just too bad that the mission structure isn't quite what it could be. And I think that if they tweaked it a little bit, they could have had a really great piece of DLC. As it stands now, they have a very good piece of DLC that I think Bus Sim fans will really enjoy, because I really enjoyed it, even if it was a little grindy and kind of felt a little padded in some spots. Still, well worth the $13 price for 9 missions, probably 10 hours of content. So, thumbs up from me. Actually, I probably shouldn't say thumbs up, because then Roger Ebert will come for me. The second game this week is a Fold Apart, and it's a game that I really enjoyed, even if I ran into a couple of stumbling blocks on my way to the end of this short but sweet experience. A Fold Apart is a very simple, easy to understand, and emotional journey dealing with a couple that really loves each other but has to deal with a long distance relationship. And this is what I really was left with as my lasting impression of this game. This game excels at telling the story and tells it in a way that is heart-wrenching and emotional, but also like very uplifting and understanding of the situation. Basically, you are a couple. One person leaves to go take on a construction job in like the big city. The other character stays behind, and they kind of exchange text messages, and they try to keep their relationship afloat through a long-distance relationship, which is not the easiest thing in the world. And that's what I think it does so well, is it really nails the nuances of why that stuff is so hard. You explore their relationship through text message exchanges, and it does a really great job of showing like how a lack of tone through text or a lack of context through text can really throw someone off in an already kind of strained environment. Like you're already on edge and you're already worrying about like, is this going to work? Are we going to be able to make it through this? Can we do this? And then you get a text message that's like, well, I'm going to go watch TV alone, like always. And your mind starts racing like, oh God, like I goofed up. Like, what does she mean alone? Why is this happening? Like, what's going on? And this is where the gameplay part comes in, because once you get these little text messages that highlights a couple of words, the person gets hyper focused on what their thought process is, and we explore their inner thoughts of like, oh man, like I know you're upset with me, but like can't you see that this is very important to me? I want to prove that I can do this. And we work through this thought process. This is where the puzzle aspect of the game comes in. Basically, you'll walk around for a little bit. You'll watch as the words very creatively plaster on screen their thought processes and stuff like that. And you'll get to a part where you need to complete a puzzle. And basically, you just need to get from point A to point B. The game does this in a really clever and creative way. You basically get a full sheet of paper, and you have to fold it in a specific way to get the character either like across a chasm, or to get like a little box that's up top, it has to drop down so that they can push it to jump on top of it to jump up and move along. Your end goal is always like this little gold star that when you collect it, the path forward reveals itself and you move on. You do a few of these puzzles throughout like these little chapters as it kind of bounces back and forth between the two characters that you're working with. And it's really well done. I liked the puzzle aspect of it. I thought a lot of it was really well tutorialized. Like I understood what they were going for, except for there's like a specific type of platform that if you fold on it, it disappears, which means that you can either fall off or an object that you need will fall to where you can't grab it and you'll have to reset yourself. For whatever reason, I never fully grasped that, and it led to one of like only two really like big stumbling blocks that I had, where I just wasn't clicking with me the way some of the other mechanics worked. Like I felt like I was breezing through it, and sometimes I'd look at a puzzle and it would take a couple times and I go, oh, okay, I see where you're going with this. But that blue disappearing one just never clicked. Fortunately, there is a really good helpful hint sort of thing. It basically just gives you like the next step that you need to figure out, and it's helpful in pushing you in the right direction. That way you don't have to like look up guides, because that's what I did, is I looked up a guide and then that was a whole mess, and oh god. But fortunately they have that in the menu. The only other puzzle I got stuck on was one where there was an extra step. Like I saw kind of what you were supposed to do, but I wasn't doing like step A. I was skipping right to step B. And that one was like kind of annoying, but it was weird because in that case, that mechanic never came back. And I was like, oh, this is really odd. They continue to introduce new mechanics that actually do come back in the form of like, initially you can fold the top, the left and the right and the bottom like inside to get the platforms where you need them to get things like in place. They later introduce the ability to like rotate the puzzle. You can pull from the corner, stuff like that. For whatever reason, as soon as they put the arrows to be like, oh, you can rotate this, I feel like I really breezed through that section. I really clicked through those puzzles, just like, oh, this makes sense. I see where you're going with this. I don't know. I really enjoyed this game. I thought it was going to be a lot longer for some reason. I read a review that was like, it's 7 or 8 hours. And then I was like, oh shit. I was a little worried because I got to like hour 2 or 3 and I was like, oh, if this game is just going to get harder from here and I'm already struggling, like, oh, am I going to be able to do this? I've already committed to like playing this whole game. Like, fudge. But it doesn't. It lasted me about 3.5 hours. You could probably do it shorter if you don't get stuck on some of the puzzles, if you see what they're doing, if you understand the mechanics a little better than I did. But even with those stumbling blocks, I still left really liking this game. Like, I was a little annoyed with them a little bit just because I obviously didn't understand one of the mechanics, and one of the other puzzles I just had trouble with. But what, again, that lasting impression sort of thing is, like, I loved the way the story played out. Like, it was so sweet and so kind and so thoughtful. It was understandable. It was understanding of the situation it was dealing with. It never felt ham-fisted. It all felt very realistic and just so well done. And I can't recommend that you check this game out enough. If you're not much of a puzzle person, you can always just watch like a playthrough on YouTube. I'll have my playthrough going up this Sunday, so if you want to check that out, you're welcome to. But if you like puzzle games, I would recommend checking this out. Maybe watch like a little like minute-long trailer, see if the tone strikes with you, and then go from there. It's a fantastic game. It's easily one of the best games I've played this year. I'm still thinking about it, and I'm sure I will think about it long after I'm done with this review, because it's a really wonderfully well-made game, and I can't recommend it enough. But do yourself a favor and go play A Fold Apart. Before we jump into this week's new releases, I wanted to share with you something fun that happened over the weekend. I hit affiliate status on Twitch, which means you can now sub and donate bits if you so choose. Thank you so much if you watch this and you watch the streams, if you just watch the streams. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch my silly, weird, wacky, dumb content. It means a lot to me. It felt really cool to get that email and just be like, you've been invited to you've been invited to join the Twitch affiliate program. It was really neat. I'm super thankful for it. So again, if you watch the streams, if you follow the streams, if you watch this content, like, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. If you watch this show, but you're not super big into watching Twitch, but you still want to support, you can do that with a free Twitch Prime subscription. All you have to do is link your Amazon Prime account to a Twitch account, and you get a free sub as part of your Amazon Prime subscription. Amazon bought Twitch a couple years ago, and now I qualify for that. So if you want to support in that way, you are more than welcome to. If not, that's totally cool. Again, just thank you so much. I wanted to share that with you and tell you that way, maybe if you watch this and you missed my other couple streams where I was talking about that, there you go. I'm now an affiliate on Twitch, and it feels awesome. Again, thank you so much if you watch any of the content. It means a ton to me. Thank you. Now we'll jump into this week's new releases. It's a little bit of a mixed bag. Still nothing in theaters, obviously. But on Blu-ray, The Gentleman is out. I did not like that movie very much, but it's out if you want to watch it. I found it to just be very boring and bland and kind of a waste of my time. Bad Boys for Life is also out. I didn't see it, but I heard good things about it. Like a Boss is out, which is a movie that I did see and I did enjoy. And finally, we have the complete series of 30 Rock on Blu-ray. I don't know how many of these seasons have been released previously on Blu-ray, but 30 Rock is a great show. I would recommend it as like a binge watch show if you're stuck at home and you want something that's very funny. It gets a lot better as the series goes along. It really hits its stride, and it's a really well done show throughout. That's not to discredit the early seasons, but I think it's more evident with comedies, like comedic television shows. It takes a little while to find its footing and really hammer home what makes that show so special, but it's really great. A couple of games of note. We have Gato Roboto, which is out on Xbox One as part of Xbox Game Pass. Deliver Us the Moon is out on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. And Predator Hunting Grounds is out on PlayStation 4. And then as for the actual streams that are happening this week on twitch.tv/ShaunosaurusRex, I'll be streaming on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Wednesday, we're going to do something random, something weird, something silly. I don't know exactly what that is at the current moment of recording, but I'm sure I'll figure something out. Thursday is going to be baseball. It's going to be probably 2 Mariners games, and then Uncle Rico is going to make his Road to the Show return as we try to get closer to the Hall of Fame. We need to get called up a couple times to get to the big leagues, to get into the Hall of Fame. It's going to be a long road, but we'll get there. Friday will be a new little mini series that I'm starting called FMV Friday. I played The Complex and Erica a few weeks ago, and I really enjoyed those games, so I went back and bought a couple more from the same publishers or developers, one of those two. Maybe it's the same thing. They both develop and publish their own games, but I went back and bought a whole set of them, so we have 4 to play. We're going to start Friday with Late Shift, and then we'll move on with a couple other games. There's like The Bunker, The Infectious Mind of Dr. Decker, and The Shape-Shifting Detective, so we'll be playing those over the next couple of weeks. We'll also play some Mariners baseball as well. 1 to 2 games, depends on how long Late Shift is. Saturday, we'll see the return of Saturday morning cartoons, continuing Wallace and Gromit in Project Zoo. Be working through that. I really enjoyed the first part of it, so we'll continue through the second world. We'll play something else in the middle, and then we'll finish up with some baseball, probably another 2 games of Mariners baseball. And then the same thing on Sunday. We'll do a question mark game. I'm not exactly sure what. Then we'll finish up with a couple games of Mariners baseball. And then on Monday, we will continue our Paper Mario playthrough. I believe it's part 4. So we're working through that and doing about a chapter per part. So it's about 3-hour chunks. It's really great. I love that game a lot. So come watch it because it's fun. Lots of streams to look forward to over there. Thank you so much again for watching the content. I know I've said it a bunch of times in this episode, but again, it just means so much to me. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching the videos. Thanks for watching the streams, helping me get to Twitch affiliate status. And thank you for following and subscribing. And it's been really awesome and such a cool weekend for me personally. Just thank you. Thank you so much. If you liked this content, you can scroll on down and you can hit that subscribe button. Then you can ring the bell and you can watch videos when I post them. I post them pretty much every day at 6 a.m. There's all kinds of stuff. There's some baseball stuff. There's some random games that you probably never heard of stuff. It's all over the board. We're working through Paper Mario. It's a good time. If you want, you can scroll on down a little bit more and you can leave me a comment down in the comment section below. You can let me know what you thought of the Airport DLC if you played that for Bus Simulator. You can let me know what you thought of a Fold Apart, thought about the story or the puzzle aspects of it. Go over to twitch.tv/ShaunosaurusRex and check out all the random streams happening this week. And then be sure to check back every Tuesday right here for more Week in Review. We'll see you next week.